Nestled in the heart of Iowa, the small town of Villisca in the early 1900s was the epitome of a close-knit, peaceful community. With a population just over 1,000, everyone knew each other by name. The streets were lined with charming wooden houses, children played freely in the open fields, and the local church was the cornerstone of social life. Neighbors often gathered for picnics, and the scent of freshly baked pies wafted through the air. Villisca was a place where doors were left unlocked, and the biggest news was usually about the annual county fair. It was a simple, serene life, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. But all of that was about to change in the most unimaginable way. Before we delve into the gruesome events of that fateful night, it's essential to understand who the Moore family was and the lives they touched. Josiah Moore, known affectionately as Joe, was a well-respected businessman. He ran a successful hardware store in the heart of Villisca, a place where townsfolk often gathered, not just to shop, but to catch up with Joe's warm and friendly demeanor. His wife, Sarah, was equally beloved. Active in the church and always ready to lend a hand, she was the glue that held many community events together. The Moores had 4 children: Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. Herman, the eldest, was just 10 years old, full of curiosity and always eager to help his father at the store. Catherine, and the only daughter, had a passion for music and was often seen practicing the piano or singing in the church choir. Boyd and Paul, the youngest of the clan, were inseparable, always found playing together in the fields or helping their mother with chores. On that tragic night, the Moore household had 2 special guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, ages 12 and 8. The Stillinger sisters were close friends of Catherine, and the sleepover was a much-anticipated event, filled with laughter, games, and whispered secrets long after lights out. Their parents had no reason to worry. The Moore home was a safe haven, a place where children were cherished and protected. The Moore family, and the Stillinger sisters, were deeply woven into the fabric of Villisca. Their absence would leave an unfillable void, and their story serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring impact of community. As we proceed to uncover the dark mystery that shattered this idyllic existence, remember these names and faces. They were more than just victims. They were beloved members of a community, each with dreams and futures stolen in the most horrific way imaginable. June 9, 1912, started like any other day in Villisca, Iowa. The Moore family attended the Children's Day program at their local church, a community event that Sarah Moore had helped organize. It was a joyous occasion, filled with laughter, songs, and the warmth of a close-knit community. After the event, the Moores, along with their 2 young guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, headed back to their home, unaware of the horror that awaited them. As night fell, the Moore household settled into a peaceful slumber. The children, exhausted from the day's activities, drifted off to sleep, their dreams filled with the innocence of youth. But somewhere in the shadows, a sinister figure lurked, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sometime after midnight, the tranquility was shattered. An unknown assailant entered the Moore residence, wielding an axe with a terrifying resolve. The brutality of the attack was beyond comprehension. Josiah and Sarah were the first to be struck, their bedroom becoming a scene of unimaginable violence. The killer then moved methodically through the house, taking the lives of each child with the same ruthless efficiency. The Stillinger sisters, who had been enjoying a sleepover with their friend Catherine, were not spared. The crime scene was a macabre tableau. Blood splattered the walls, and the sheer force of the blows had left the rooms in a state of chaos. But amidst the brutality, there were chilling, almost ritualistic details. The killer had covered all the mirrors in the house, as if to avoid confronting their own reflection. Cloths were gently placed over the faces of the victims, a bizarre act of tenderness in the midst of such savagery. The next morning, the grim discovery was made by a neighbor who had grown concerned when the Moores didn't emerge from their home. The sight that greeted them was nothing short of a nightmare. The entire town of Villisca was plunged into shock and mourning. The once peaceful streets were now filled with whispers of fear and speculation. The investigation that followed was hampered by the limited forensic techniques of the time. Despite the efforts of the authorities, the identity of the killer remained a mystery. The community was left to grapple with the horror of the crime, their sense of security irrevocably shattered. As we reflect on the events of that night, the eerie details linger in the mind. The covered mirrors, the cloths over the faces, the sheer brutality of the killings. Each element adds to the haunting legacy of the Villisca Axe Murders. It's a story that continues to captivate and horrify, a dark chapter in the history of a small town that will never be forgotten. In the aftermath of the Villisca Axe Murders, the small town of Villisca was thrust into a whirlwind of shock and confusion. The initial response to the gruesome discovery was one of disbelief and horror. The local law enforcement quickly realized they were dealing with an unprecedented crime, one that would require meticulous investigation. The process began with securing the crime scene, but given the era's limited forensic capabilities, many crucial pieces of evidence were handled improperly or lost. Curious townsfolk, driven by morbid curiosity, trampled through the moor residents, contaminating what could have been vital clues. The lack of modern forensic science meant that crime scene preservation was rudimentary at best. Despite these challenges, law enforcement did what they could. Fingerprints were taken, though the technology to analyze them accurately was still in its infancy. Blood samples were collected, but the means to test them were rudimentary. The investigators were left to piece together the puzzle with the limited tools at their disposal. One of the most perplexing aspects of the case was the absence of a clear motive. The brutality of the crime suggested a personal vendetta, yet the Moors were well liked and had no known enemies. This led investigators to consider a range of suspects, from disgruntled business associates to transient workers passing through town. Among the key suspects was Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher with a troubled past. Kelly had been in Villisca on the night of the murders and exhibited strange behavior in the days following the crime. His erratic nature and peculiar fascination with the case drew the attention of authorities. Under intense interrogation, Kelly confessed to the murders, but his confession was inconsistent and later recanted. Despite 2 trials, he was never convicted, leaving many to question his true involvement. Other suspects included a local businessman with a grudge against Josiah Moore and a transient worker who disappeared shortly after the murders. Each theory brought its own set of questions and speculations, but none provided a definitive answer. The case was further complicated by the media frenzy that ensued. Sensationalist headlines and wild theories filled the newspapers, adding to the confusion and making it even harder for the truth to emerge. The pressure on law enforcement was immense, yet despite their best efforts, the investigation eventually hit a dead end. As time passed, the Villisca Axe Murders became one of America's most infamous unsolved mysteries. The lack of resolution has kept the story alive, drawing the interest of both professional investigators and amateur sleuths. Each new theory and piece of evidence is scrutinized, but the identity of the killer remains as elusive as ever. In reflecting on the investigation, it's clear that the limitations of the time played a significant role in the case remaining unsolved. The challenges faced by law enforcement, from the contamination of evidence to the limitations of forensic science, created insurmountable obstacles. Yet, the haunting legacy of the Villisca Axe Murders endures, a chilling reminder of a crime that continues to baffle and intrigue. As we move forward, the hope remains that one day, new evidence or a breakthrough in forensic technology might finally bring closure to this dark chapter in Villisca's history. As we delve deeper into the Villisca Axe Murders, it's essential to explore the myriad theories and speculations that have emerged over the years. Each theory adds a layer of intrigue to this already baffling case, and while none have definitively solved the mystery, they provide fascinating perspectives on what might have happened that fateful night. One of the most widely discussed theories involves a transient killer. In the early 1900s, the railroads were a lifeline for many towns, bringing a mix of travelers, drifters, and sometimes unsavory characters. Some believe that the Villisca murderer could have been a transient, passing through town with no ties to the community. This theory gains traction from the fact that similar axe murders occurred in other parts of the Midwest around the same time. Could it have been the work of a serial killer moving along the rail lines, leaving a trail of terror in their wake? The Villisca Axe Murders didn't just claim the lives of 8 innocent people. They left an indelible mark on the community of Villisca itself. Imagine living in a town where everyone knows each other, where doors are left unlocked, and children play freely in the streets. That sense of security was shattered on June 10, 1912, when the brutal crime was discovered. For the residents of Villisca, the aftermath was a period of intense fear and suspicion. The atmosphere in the town changed almost overnight. People began locking their doors, something they had never felt the need to do before. Parents kept their children close, and the once friendly community became wary and mistrustful. Every neighbor was a potential suspect. Every stranger was viewed with suspicion. The murders also fueled a host of local legends and folklore. Stories of the haunted Moore house began to circulate, with some claiming to hear ghostly whispers or see apparitions of the victims. These tales only added to the town's eerie reputation and drew paranormal enthusiasts from far and wide. Over time, the community of Villisca tried to return to a semblance of normalcy, but the shadow of the murders loomed large. Annual memorials and ghost tours keep the memory of that night alive, ensuring that the tragedy is never forgotten. The town's identity became intertwined with the unsolved mystery, a dark chapter that continues to define Villisca to this day. Even now, more than a century later, the impact of the Villisca Axe Murders is palpable. The case remains a chilling reminder of how one night of violence can alter a community forever. And now, as we delve into the broader implications of this case, let's explore how the Villisca Axe Murders have become one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries. In the 21st century, the Villisca Axe Murders have transcended from a local tragedy to a subject of national intrigue, captivating true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators alike. The eerie allure of the unsolved mystery has inspired a plethora of books, documentaries, and even ghost tours, each seeking to unravel the chilling events of that fateful night in 1912. Books like The Man from the Train and Villisca delve deep into the investigation, offering theories and insights that keep readers on the edge of their seats. Documentaries such as Villisca, Living with a Mystery provide a visual and emotional journey through the case, complete with expert interviews and historical footage that bring the past to life. For those brave enough to confront the paranormal, ghost tours of the Moore house offer a spine-tingling experience. Visitors report strange occurrences, unexplained noises, sudden drops in temperature, and even sightings of ghostly apparitions. These tours not only keep the story alive, but also serve as a grim reminder of the unsolved horror that still haunts Villisca. Social media platforms and forums buzz with theories and speculation, as amateur sleuths and seasoned investigators alike share their thoughts and findings. Podcasts dissect every gruesome detail, keeping the conversation going and the mystery alive for new generations. The Villisca Axe Murders have become more than just a historical footnote. They are a compelling narrative that continues to fascinate and terrify. As technology advances and new methods of investigation emerge, who knows? Perhaps one day, the truth will finally come to light. But until that day, the story of the Villisca Axe Murders remains an enigma, a haunting puzzle that continues to captivate the curious and the brave. As we delve deeper into the Villisca Axe Murders, it's impossible to ignore the profound psychological toll this unsolved case has had on those connected to it. For the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters, their brutal end left a void in the hearts of their loved ones and an indelible scar on the community. Survivors and relatives found themselves grappling with grief, anger, and a desperate need for answers that would never come. But the psychological impact didn't stop with the immediate families. Over the decades, the residents of Villisca have lived under the shadow of this atrocity, their sense of safety forever shattered. The once tight-knit community became a place where trust was eroded, and every neighbor was a potential suspect. The investigators, too, were haunted. Imagine the frustration and despair of law enforcement officials who, despite their best efforts, couldn't bring the perpetrator to justice. The case became a dark cloud over their careers, a constant reminder of their limitations in the face of such evil. Even those who have studied the case from afar, historians, true crime enthusiasts, and paranormal investigators, find themselves drawn into the psychological labyrinth of the Villisca Axe Murders. The more they uncover, the more they realize how deeply this mystery digs into the human psyche, revealing our darkest fears and deepest curiosities. As we reflect on this chilling chapter of American history, one thing becomes clear. The Villisca Axe Murders are more than just a cold case. They are a psychological enigma that continues to resonate, a haunting puzzle that compels us to confront the fragility of our own sense of security and the enduring quest for justice. So, what do you think happened on that fateful night? What theories do you believe hold the most weight? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see if together we can inch closer to the truth. All right, folks. Buckle up because today we're diving into one of America's most chilling unsolved mysteries, the Villisca Axe Murders. Picture this. It's the early 1900s, and Villisca, Iowa is your quintessential small, close-knit town. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and life is simple, peaceful, ordinary. That is, until the night of June 9th, 1912. Enter the Moore family. Josiah and Sarah Moore, along with their 4 children, were well-liked pillars of the community. That night, they had 2 young guests staying over, the Stillinger sisters, Lena and Ina. It was supposed to be a fun, typical sleepover. Little did they know, it would be their last. As the town slumbered, an unfathomable horror unfolded. Sometime in the dark of night, an unknown assailant wielded an axe, taking the lives of all 8 occupants of the Moore household. The crime scene? Beyond brutal. Blood-splattered walls, mirrors covered, and cloths tenderly placed over the victims' faces. The next morning, the ghastly discovery shocked Villisca to its core. The authorities scrambled to piece together what had happened. The investigation was a grim task, marred by the limited forensic technology of the time. Fingerprints were taken, but the killer remained elusive. One key suspect emerged, Reverend George Kelly. A peculiar man with a troubled past, Kelly confessed, then recanted, his statements riddled with inconsistencies. Despite multiple trials, he was never convicted. Over the years, theories have swirled. Was it a transient passing through town? Someone harboring a vendetta against the Moore family? Or perhaps a deranged local, hiding in plain sight? Experts and amateur sleuths alike have dissected every possibility, but no theory has definitively solved the case. The impact on Villisca was profound. A sense of fear and mistrust settled over the town. Homes were locked, and children weren't allowed to play outside after dark. The murders cast a long shadow, one that lingers even today. In modern times, the Villisca Axe Murders have captivated true crime enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. Books and documentaries dissect every chilling detail. Ghost tours walk you through the very house where the crime occurred, perpetuating the mystery and the eerie allure of the story. As we conclude our deep dive into the Villisca Axe Murders, the shadows of this unsolved mystery continue to loom large. The brutal slaying of the Moore family and their young guests remains one of America's most chilling and enigmatic crimes. Despite countless theories and investigations over the decades, the truth about what happened that fateful night in 1912 remains elusive. What do you think happened in Villisca? Was the killer someone from within the community, or an outsider who vanished into the night? The haunting details and unanswered questions still capture our imagination, and the case remains a dark testament to the unknown. If you enjoyed this exploration into one of history's most unsettling mysteries, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into unsolved cases and the darkest corners of criminal minds. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about this haunting case. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and keep seeking out the truth.